Greetings, participants. Welcome to today's session. I said Robotics Basic Python. Hoping that you will enjoy today's session. For those of you who are joining us or will be checking the recording, welcome. Without wasting time, I'll hand over to Meneri Johannes for the house rules. And over to you, Meneri Johannes.
Thank you so much, Tamela. Welcome everybody to today's session, the first unit of Python Basics. We only have a few small house rules for today. We'd like to ask everyone to please mute your cameras to save data and bandwidth. Also to mute your microphones to keep all the background noise to minimum. If anybody has a question at any point in time, please feel free to raise your hand, or if you have some mic problems, please put it into the chat area. And then I'm ready on my side. Over to you, Dr. Host.
Sure, that was a quick introduction. Very quick. Things are happening here. All right. Let me just get this closed and that closed, and then all right. So thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for all those introductions. And yes, so this is something different. We've done a session before on Python. And what we'd like to really do is introduce you to the Python programming language. So within programming, there's always the kind of the continuum from text-based programming or from icon-based programming to text-based programming. And so what we've done up until now with robotics is we've really used the icon-based programming environments. But what we actually want our learners to do is progress to Python, to a text-based programming language. So that's what we're going to do today. I noticed, however, that this week is chopped short because yesterday was a public holiday. So we are going to I'll see which sessions I'm probably going to combine tomorrow. I'm going to put 2 sessions in. I'll see how it goes, whether we can put it into an hour. But I'm not sure how many of you have done programming before, how many of you have done robotics before. I'm kind of hoping you're part of the robotics online community and you're probably just curious to know about Python programming. So what we're going to do is just introduce today the basics of Python programming. And we'll eventually, say in another session, we'll use the Python programming then to control the robots. Okay, so that is the vision. But we needed to introduce Python as a programming language first. And you will also see on the, if you go and do a Google search, you'll also see that it is a way of, as a next step of then programming the robots to do with Python programs. Okay, so that is where we are. And so that's the first thing. The second thing is we are busy putting together a MOOC portal as well for the Python programming. So this is just testing out all the material. So your feedback is really appreciated. If there's something you think we've missed, if you something we'd like us to add to the Python presentations, we really welcome some feedback on that. So we've got 4 units and we're going to put it onto a MOOC portal, and then we'll put also all the recordings then onto that portal as an introduction to Python programming. Okay, so let's just go through the materials, and then as usual, we can ask the questions. All right, so I'm just going to share my screen as usual. There you go. Okay. All right. Okay. It seems like everything is taking forever today, but anyway. All right, can you see my screen?
It's coming through from on my side. Yes, it's on my side.
It's there. Okay.
Yes, and I can confirm.
Okay. You can confirm. Awesome. Okay, so what we're going to do today is just give you an introduction to Python programming. And we are going to use, there's a whole lot of snake terms here. We're going to use Anaconda just because it can, it's less technical and allows you to focus on the programming itself. Remember the programming principles. And I've put it in parentheses. We'll eventually create graphical user interfaces, and I'll show you how to do data analysis, and I'll show you how to use the Python to program our lovely robots. But this was just as an introduction. We've got to start somewhere. Okay, so this is part 1, and we're going to do data operations. And as usual, we're a whole team right here. Okay, so again, the Python MOOC will hopefully be up and running at least by the end of April. That's the plan, and then we'll have all these recordings available as well. But you're welcome to email us if you've got any queries, and if you'd like some more information, you're more than welcome. Okay, so really it is to equip our robotics coaches. It doesn't matter whether you're an educator, student, a trainer, facilitator, or just a visionary community leader, which is really important. We need to get to our learners, and so you as the coaches are then we focus on the coaches to equip competent and confident coaches towards competent and confident learners. All right, and as usual, we ask the questions and we have all the content available. Okay, so again, back to this robotics, we've got the engineering part, so building it, and then the function part is then the programming. And up until now, we've only introduced the icon-based programming. This takes it on the continuum a little further to say, well, what if we do Python programming? How do we control our robots using Python programming? And so that's where we are with this thing. And so what you need to realize is that whatever we're doing on the terms of the 21st century skills and the problem solving and the critical thing, it's all part of problem solving. Okay. And so there's different ways of then analyzing the problem to get to a solution. So that is kind of keep in the back of your mind. But it's the programming principles. So I think if you've been in previous live online learning sessions, the programming principles you've heard a couple of times already. But now we're going to apply these principles using the Python programming language, and a lot of practice, a lot of demonstration on the principles. I've made some worksheets for us, so we're going to work through the worksheets, and I would love for you to try the examples and try it for yourself. Okay. The focus is here on the Python, on the programming, and the language we've chosen is Python in lovely purple. And the environment we've used is the Anaconda Jupyter Notebook page. It still says that the resources will be available on M2. We've actually got a new portal for Python programming. So I'm going to rather put it on the Python programming portal. I'm just thinking about it now. Okay, so you've heard now with programming, there's a logic flow or a control flow. So it's either sequential, where you do one thing after the other. There's iteration, remember, where you do it several times, and then there's a decision where you choose which way you go. But now in programming, there's also data types, variables, constants, comments. These words are going to come back over and over and over again in the next 4 sessions. And I need you just to keep it in the back of your mind, because you'll hear it now. And when I demonstrate it, it will seem obvious. All right. So the purpose then is to kind of go into problem solving. But to solve a problem, you need to practice, perseverance, and also with everything we do inputs, we do processing, and we do output. So we do a 3-step approach, okay? And we can do it in any language listed below, but for now we're going to do Python, okay? So now about the Python programming language, again, Tamela, we should have had a poll here. I don't know how much people know about Python, but it is an easy to learn language and easy to read. It's cool, it's free, and then it can be integrated with other programming languages, okay? A lot of Python is being used for data sciences, for data analysis. Yeah, so it's got exception handling, which is important, and especially memory management, especially if you're writing bigger systems. So this is the reasons why Python is recommended. There is going to be a document I'm going to circulate. So we have to install the Anaconda, and then within Anaconda, there's Jupyter Notebook. So there's your Jupyter Notebook, and if you double click on launch, then you'll add the launch page. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a Jupyter Notebook page, and then you can open it in your Anaconda, and then you can play around. I'm going to give you a demonstration now. Okay, all right. So then you put your Jupyter Notebook page into your own directory wherever you are, and then we do it here. I'm going to demonstrate to you now. Okay. And obviously, going forward, you can also install Python as the programming language, and then you can use it's called PyQt, and then we can develop user interfaces like this, which then allows you to interact with your program, and you can build applications. All right. What we actually want to go for is programming our robots with Python. So there's EV3 for Python. There are also Python for robotics, Python for data science, and all that is kind of it's kind of for your information at the moment, but this is where we're heading. All right. So let's just take a step and say, okay, so what is our problem? So if we have a problem, say, write a program to add two numbers, subtract two numbers, two real numbers, whatever two numbers you have, how do you do it? Well, you take one number and you take another number and you add the two and you have an answer and you show the answer. Okay. The same would be, how do you calculate the area of a square or a rectangle? Let's take the square. You've got one side. So a side times the side, a multiplication operation will then give you a value, which is then the area of your square. Okay. In all cases, there is an operation included in your processing. Okay. And so if you have a different data types, you have integer numbers, you have floating numbers, you have Boolean numbers, Boolean data. Whatever data you have, each data then has a specific way of processing it. Okay. And we'll get, hopefully next session, we'll get to strings where you can add two strings, which means you concatenate them, you put them together. That's also possible. All right. And then programming elements, I'm just listing this so that you've heard it. So there's are literals, there are variables, there are keywords, very important for comments, and then for print. So if you say print this, then whatever's in the quotes will be printed, and print that is that plus the value, whatever value is in temperature. Okay, so I'm going to show you this and I'm going to demonstrate it. Okay, so that's the Anaconda. Then you would have all your pages, and you would have to take the page that I'm going to give you now and upload it or open it from here, wherever you've uploaded it to. And this is what it's going to look like, and kind of this is what we're going to do. All right, and this is what your answers are going to be like. All right. Other examples, you can do the area of a triangle. You can add three numbers. Instead of add two numbers, you can add three numbers. You can add four numbers, or you can calculate an average and you'd be dividing. So you add something and divide it. So there's two, right? In terms of logistics for this course, I'm going to now give you a demonstration. But in terms of logistics, I'm going to give you a Jupyter Notebook page, and you can read that, and then you can work through the examples with me. And I really encourage you to actually do. Don't just passively come to these classes and just watch. I actually need you to do the stuff. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing the theory, and we're going to do some practical now. Okay. There are no questions yet. No. All right. So
Dr. Host, maybe I have one question I can launch a poll about.
Yes.
So mine is, have you ever coded before? For the people
Have you ever got anything? Okay, we'll have to put that on the poll as well. Okay. Yes, that could be quite scary. Okay, so if it's your very first time in programming, here we go. All right, so let's share the screen. Yeah, I think we definitely need to ask that question. All right, so now let me just see where. Okay. There we go. Everybody see my screen?
Yes, Dr. House, I can see the Python coding.
Yes, perfect. Okay, so what this is if you're over here, you can see there's a lot of spaces, okay, or little blocks. But each block has got so that's code. You can see that's a code. This block is a markdown, which means I use it as my heading, but that's not relevant now. So in your block, you're going to write a program. So if you say A is equal to 3 and B is equal to 5, and the total is equal to A plus B. Okay. So if we're going to run this program, let's say run it, nothing is going to happen. Okay. Nothing is going to happen because you don't have output. So if you put here, this is my comment, this is our input. Okay. And this is our processing. Ooh. Okay, let's put a hashtag in front of it, but everything is hash. Okay. And then we say print total. All right. So now if we run it, we get 8. Okay, so you run your program. But if we change this value to 19, and now we run it again, we get 22. Okay, so voila, that's your first program. Okay, so you've got a input, you've got another input, you do processing, and then this thing, this is linear programming. You do this and do that and do that, and then you get to an answer. Okay. So now I've written another program. Okay, so now I've said variable 1 and variable 2, and the sum is the variable 1 plus variable 2. And then I'm going to say here also, take that hashtag away. So now it says the answer is. So that's a little bit more meaningful. So if I put it in here, so this is the input. Okay, and this is the processing. There is a method to my madness, okay? And this is the output. All right, so now if you're in the square and you run it, then it's going to say the answer is 8, which is correct. If you change this value to 90 and then you run it, it's 92. But now, okay, let me get to that just now. All right, so now this is for the subtraction of two numbers. So now if you wanted to subtract two numbers, how would you do that? Well, then you would say, what is your input? Input is variable 1 is equal to 90 and variable 2 is equal to 70, and then we say the difference is equal to variable 1 minus variable 2, and so we'd have print answer is, okay, and then has to be the difference. Okay. All right. Here we go. Oh dear. Anybody know why there is a mistake? It's horrible when you get mistakes. Anybody?
You did not define the output.
One more step. The output is called the diff, but the diff doesn't have a space there, and the diff does have a space there. So if we take that space out, now we run it.
Incorrect. Yeah.
There we go. Does that look better? All right. So let me just so we can read it properly. So let me just add a comment. This must be the processing. Ooh, I can't spell today. Okay. So this is what I'm adding here. The input, processing, and output is for me to teach you good programming habits. All right. Let's just run this again. Okay, that's better. Okay. I just want to show you if I'd said the diff and a capital letter here, and now I'd run it, I'm going to get nothing. Another error. Why? Because the diff with a D capital is not the same as the diff with a small letter. So be very aware of spelling. All right. Let's see whether it's going to run. Yes, it's going to run. Okay. Okay. So now, you see, we're moving on. We're moving on from A's and B's to putting input, process, output. So you can see what's going on to output there. So this one is now for multiplication of two numbers or the division of two numbers. So if variable 1 is 6 and 2, if we divide variable 1 by variable 2, the answer is going to be, anybody? 3. Yay.
Yes, that's nice. We also have a hand from Hayden.
Okay, I'm listening.
Does Jupyter Notebook also support F-string literals? Because I know PyCharm does.
It should. You want to tell me?
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not too sure if it does.
Well, then we're going to find out. We're going to have a really cool discussion in the afternoons. Yes. All right. Cool. So it's really cool if you can come also, if you test something over the between sessions and you can let us know. That'll be great. Awesome. Okay. So now here's a strange thing. A 6 is an integer, 2 is an integer. So why is it given as a float value? So there we can start formatting our outputs. Okay. Here is 4 and 9, and that just doesn't mean anything. All right. So, but here, let's say, I don't know. Oh, I'm going to leave it like that. Wait, I'm going to leave it like that. All right. So here it says I've got 7 and 9, I've got a total, and then I add the total and another 100. So the answer here is then going to be 116, which is correct. All right. So even if we add 200 here and then add it, so you can keep adding to that. So if I put C is equal to 19, and I add C here, all right, and then you run it. Right, here we go. Okay, if we were going to, all right, let's have a look here. Now this one is a little bit easier to read. Okay, so our input is what? Our input is A, please enter the number of donuts that you ate, and B, please enter the number of donuts that are left. Okay, what is the processing? The processing is going to say, well, we've got to consider the inputs processing. We've got to see how many you've eaten and how many are left to work out how many you bought originally. So that's the processing. And then the output will be what you print. So let's have a look. Now, don't you think this is more meaningful? Because now you haven't hard-coded numbers into your code. So now you ate, how many donuts did you eat? You ate 6 donuts, okay? And there's only 24 remaining. Okay, so that means that you must have eaten, or you must have bought a total of 30 donuts. Okay, but now here's the cool thing. If you run this again, you can put any number in. So you say you only ate 3 and there's 27 left, well then you still bought 30. Okay, so it gives you a bit more flexibility because now you're changing the input. The processing stays the same and the output is based on the processing. All right. Okay, so here's another way of saying it. All right, so we're going to bring a box of donuts, enter the number of donuts in the box, and then we're going to divide it up by the learners in the class. All right, so if you bring 6 donuts and there are 6 learners in the class, well, everyone gets 1. That's easy. If you bring 12 donuts and there are 6 in the class, everybody gets 2. All right, what are you going to do if you bring 20 donuts and there are 7 learners in the class? All right, well then this is the division, the integer division. So now we're going to run this and say, okay, so the number of donuts we brought 24, okay, but there are 7 learners in the class. Great. Oh, but that is not right. That is not right. How can you divide that by that? That's not correct. What do you think? Anybody? What's going to be the answer? Because you can't divide a donut into pieces, can you now? So there has to be a remainder. Okay, so let's do it like this. We try this one. We have 34 donuts and we have 14. Ah, that's a bit better. Doesn't that look a bit better? So if we have 34 donuts divided by 14 learners, and we give each learner 2 whole donuts, because we can't get half donuts, then you have 6 left for the staff. Okay, so that is then integer division. So there you've got 2 lines. Okay, because we don't give halves and quarters and eighths and what kind of. All right. So next example will be, how do you calculate the length of if you calculate the length, the perimeter of a square? So if the length is 10, then the perimeter must be 40. Correct. So there's the length. We're going to get the length as our input. Let's just put this here. This is input. Okay, this is our processing. Like, good programmers need to know what we are processing. And then this, oopsie, this is then your output. You can leave away input, process, process. You can leave away the words input, process, output. But the problem is, when you start writing complex programming, you might forget where you are. Okay, so let's just work this out. So if I run it now, and I say the length of one side is 15, what will the perimeter be? The perimeter of the square. Then the perimeter of the square will be 60, because it's 4 sides, the length of 4 sides. Okay, but now if you had to calculate the area of a square is length times breadth. Cool. So now if we run this program and say, okay, the area is 12, and 12 times 12 is 121, 144. There we go. 11 times 11 is 121. 12 times 12 is 144. There we go. Okay. Right. At each time you put in a value, it works. So we're only doing one operation with more than one data value. All right. Again, here is the area of a triangle. Okay, so now we're going to run this one. It says, okay, the length of one side is 12. The length of the other side, that should be square. Oh, that's wrong. Okay, let's just put it in like that, 144. The length of the side of the rectangle. A-N-G-L-A. Okay, so we want the area of a rectangle. Please enter the long length of the side of the rectangle, and please enter the shorter of the rectangle, of the side. Okay, of the, there we go. Okay, so now if we work out the area of a rectangle, it's length times breadth. Okay, so if we're going to, let's run this quickly. Okay, so if the long length is 10, and the short length is, say, 5, and the area is 50. Okay, you can put any sums into here and you'll get an answer. Okay, all right, so here's one for you guys. If John earns 40 Rand an hour, and Sam earns 60 Rand an hour, and Jane earns 75 Rand an hour, what is the average hourly rate? Okay, and then use the radius of a wheel to calculate the circumference of the wheel. So that is what I leave you to do. Let's see what we can do. All right, I'm going to leave the screen up. Are there any questions about data, numeric data, and operations in programming? Anybody? Or is this part okay? Anybody? Anybody want to pose a problem that we can solve here? Who's got a question that we can solve? Or does it seem
I have
quite
more like a comment, Dr. Gous.
Say again?
I have more like a comment. Can we indent on Jupyter? Can we indent or not?
You can indent, but the indenting comes when it'll self-indent when we start writing bigger programs. Yeah.
Okay, that was all my question.
Okay. Yeah.
If anybody has
now
questions, please feel free to unmute.
So okay, so how many hours of sleep? Somebody got 8 hours of sleep, and somebody else got 15 hours of sleep. Lucky person. Oh, I can't type here. Okay, so this is the average hours of sleep. This person is obviously sleep deprived. He got 4 hours of sleep. So to calculate average hours of sleep, average sleep equal to n variable 1 plus n variable 2 plus n variable 3 divided by how many? 3.0. So we have print. I'm waiting for a question, so I'm just average sleep, and then AVE sleep. All right, let's have a look. Enter. Okay, so let's run it. Okay, so the average sleep is 9 hours. Okay, anybody want to suggest how we can improve this? Anybody? You can do all these story sums that you used to do. You can just repeat it over and over again. And you can just also copy it, which is really cool. Person A, person B, and person C. And all right, shall we run it? Let's run this here quickly. Oh, there's a mistake there. Anybody want to guess why there's an error there? Oh dear.
Error.
Okay. Yes, Manga, if you want to.
Oh, because isn't the error when there's only capital A and the other the lower cap?
The capital A is, no, that's in the comment, but we can change that because that's not good. No, there's something else wrong. Let's run it again. There's still something else wrong. Anybody can see what's wrong? I think we need to have prizes. Spot the error. Anybody?
That would disqualify me.
Yeah. I can see the error, but that comes from gazillion years of programming.
Yep.
Anybody? No? Okay, let me show you quickly. So there is one bracket, two brackets, and on this side there's only one bracket. So we put a bracket in here, because whatever you open, you close. Got to be an equal number of brackets. Okay, so now let's run it. Brilliant. So this person got 12 hours of sleep, this person got 3 hours of sleep, and this person got 8 hours of sleep. The average is 7.667 hours of sleep. So now you can put average sleep in hours. Now if you run it like that, 12, 13, 9, there we go. Right. Anybody, are you very quiet today? For a programming class, very quiet. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to come back to the meeting quickly. All right. Okay, so, oh yes, Bongo, you got your hand up.
Yes, I'd like to ask, when you're running like when you're running your code, right? Let's say you're doing a simple sum code in, let's say 5 plus 8. Instead of adding it to make 13, let's say it just writes like 58. Like it just writes 5 and 8 together next to each other instead of adding them together.
Okay, so you are touching on a very important topic. What you're doing here in arithmetic and data operations for numbers, you add them together. So 5 plus 8 will give you 5 plus 8. 5 plus 3 plus 5 will give you 8. Okay, I'm just going to share with you my screen again. I'll show you what's going to happen. And this is the cool thing about programming, because you can test it. Just here. All right. So let's just go up to, here's a space here. Okay. So if you have variable 1 is equal to, okay, but it's not equal to the number, it's equal to the digit 5. Okay. And variable 2 is equal to not the number value, but the string value 3. Okay. Then if you say total is equal to variable 1 plus variable 2, then what you're actually doing is you're concatenating two literals. Okay. And so if we print now, this is one of those things, if you get it, it's good. All right, the total is equal to total. So let's run this program. Okay, Okay, there you see you've concatenated two literal values, the 5 and the 3, not for the numeric value that it is, but for the literal value that it is. This concatenation of values and adding of numeric values is a huge step in programming. Yep. Is that answering your question?
Yes, thank you.
Because what you've actually got here, if you can put cat here, and you've got a string, okay? So now if you add cat and dog, cat plus dog doesn't give you cow. Cat plus dog gives you cat dog. Okay? Also here, if you've got cat plus dog, and you run it, it's going to give you cat, dog. Okay? Because it concatenates literal values. So whenever you put it into quotes, then you're not taking its numerical value, you're taking its literal value. All right. Are we good? Okay, does that answer your question? Yay!
Hi, excuse me. I also like let's say how if you I didn't see the average one, because let's say you have to calculate average, and there's no symbol for average. How would you is there like certain thing I must write for average or percentage also?
There's average. So average, how do you calculate an average? You calculate it by adding all the values and dividing it by the number of values you've added. Okay? It's up here. Can you see this? Or must I make it a bit bigger?
No, I see. Thank you.
You got it. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So if you wanted to calculate the percentage, if you say, I got 49 out of 100, what percentage did I get? That is actually saying I've got 49 divided by 100, and that'll give you your percentage. Okay. It's the same as if you were to add your marks that you get for an assignment. If you've got 4 marks for an assignment, so you've got 60%, 40%, 90%, and 10%, and you want to know what is the average percentage, then you add all 4 together and divide it by 4. Then you get the average percentage. Okay.
The last question. Can I ask what you wrote? You wrote INT and then open bracket input. What's the point of writing the INT?
Okay. So this thing is to format as an integer value. Okay. So what happens here, it makes it an integer. So integer is a whole number, because I asked for the number of hours you slept. I didn't say, like 3.5 hours or whatever. Okay. So if we run this program, okay, and I type in light, that is not an integer value. Okay. So it gives me an error. Okay. Because light is not an integer value. Light is not a whole number. Okay. If I run it again and I put in the value 4.56789 hours, okay, it's also going to give me a problem because it says it wants an integer value. Okay, and this is part of your data, your input verification, where you choose, if you ask for a number, the user must enter a real number, or in this case, an integer number. Okay, so if I had, I'm going to do this again. So if I had taken away the int part, so I didn't want the integer, I just said just enter any number. Okay, so now if I run it, and I say, okay, I slept for 4.666789 whatever hours, okay, then it goes in because there's no restriction. If I slept for light hours, there's no restriction. If I spent for 4 hours, there's no restriction. But the problem comes in because I didn't verify that my data was correct. That light can't be added, okay? There's an unsupported operand, okay? If I run it again and I say, okay, let's do it in real values. So I put 34.4 hours and 12.4 hours and 10.0987 hours, which is not possible. But anyway, okay. So now what is happening? What is the average here now? What's wrong now? What did I make a mistake?
Shouldn't you declare
oh,
all as a float?
no. You know what I've just done? What did I know? Do you think I must do it as a float?
Yeah, just before the open parentheses to input, you declare it as a float and then do the exact same thing.
Is it going to make the same mistake?
No, it will run the program.
Okay, let me just, I just want to take this one out quickly. I just want to take all these brackets out. Okay, so you say if I leave
Before
it like
input,
this. Yes, yeah, there. I must type in float.
Yes, before input, and then open parentheses, and then close it at the end and do that for all three, and the same sum will run.
Okay, who's speaking now?
Hayden.
Okay, well, let's see whether Hayden gets a prize today. Okay, so now you say I must run this. Okay, so now I can enter 12.3, 23.1, and 10.9 hours. Well done, Hayden.
Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so now you force it to put in floats. Okay, so next thing is if we take exactly the same program and run it, but we just enter integer values. So we enter 2 hours, 3 hours, and 4 hours. The program will still convert the integer to floats. Okay, so we entered integer values. It was still a number. If we go and run it again and run now, oh my word, let's run this now. If we enter you see, so it doesn't even, it cannot take an input of a string value or a character value and convert it to a float, but it can take an integer and convert it to a float by adding 0.0. Okay. And I think this is one of those problems of we are very easy to want to get everything right. What we need to create is a culture of computational thinking and a culture of let's try it and figure it out if it's not correct. Okay, you see here, you can, on this Jupyter Notebook page, you can play as much as you like. You can change the program, you can add the program. It'll probably give you sometimes more meaningful and less meaningful guidance of where the problem is. When I started programming, we used to have to wait 12 hours for feedback from a single run. Now you get instant feedback. Okay, you immediately know. So the learning can happen much easier or much quicker, but the learning happens through discovery. I really urge every single one of you to sit for an hour, go online, go and find some Jupyter examples, Python examples. There is a plethora of Python basics programming. Find some really cool examples, and we can talk about it tomorrow. We can talk about it in the session tomorrow. And it's about understanding what you are doing. And so if your foundation of understanding is sound, we can move on and we can build on that. Because at the moment, we are just doing linear programming. So when the program runs, it executes that, and then that, and then that, and then that, and then that. That's linear programming. It's very sequential. Tomorrow we'll get to when you can make decisions to choose which part of your code you're going to execute and which not. And then also when you have parts of program that you're going to do multiple times, then we can put it in a loop, and we'll go through that stuff tomorrow. All right. But I think for now, well done in programming. We focused on the data operations, numerical. So add, subtract, multiply, divide. And with 2 or more integer or float numbers, you can start going 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, but you can increase those numbers. And yes, that's where we are. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'll come back into the meeting. Any other questions? It's been really great. And I really thank you, everybody, for the input. The only way we're going to get through programming to our learners, to have competent and confident learners, that every learner does at least one term of programming for the fun of it, is to have competent and confident educators. Just doing the basics of programming. Yeah, it's about computational thinking. In the programming principles, there are only 3 controls. There's only linear, repetitive, and decision making. And we've got to build on, as we go up, we've got to build on the basics and keep moving up there. All right. Any other questions? Last chance. Any other questions? Anybody else want to add something maybe? No? Okay, wait, I see there's a comment here. Or was it, did you somebody post something there? No, also not. Okay. So I'm going to stop here now. I think I'm trying to think where I'm going to put these down. Maybe if you go onto the M1 for now, just go onto the M1 portal. I will put the Jupyter Notebook pages and all that stuff on the I must just make a note. I'll do it tonight still. I'll add it this evening. So on the M1 portal, I'll add the Jupyter Notebook pages for the rest of the week, and then we can talk about that as well. So if you want to go ahead and go and see what it's all about, you're most welcome. But I'll put it, there we go, just make a note. M1 pages I'll put on the M1 MOOC portal site. I'll just put them there for now until we have our Python site up and running. Okay, excellent. I see Cabela's come in. Thank you, Cabela, for joining us. Would you like to close the session for us then?
Thank you, everyone, for attending today's session. And for those who are joining us for the first time, we're saying hang in there. And for those who have been there before, let your experience be an inspiration to the others. And until we meet each other at 4 in the next session, I thank you.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, team, thank you very much for the really cool session, and go and fetch some coffee or tea quickly, and we'll see each other at 4 o'clock again. Okay, exciting times this week. It's a pleasure. Hi, Maria.